Sup guys, this is Heat King here bringing you a movie review on the latest Star Wars story, Solo. So yeah, the hype for this movie has been mixed to negative, mostly because it's such a pointless film to make. So, and of course all the production problems that followed it. So the assumption going into this film was that it was going to suck. I didn't want to see this movie at all. I kept saying I wasn't going to go and see this, but I did. I went yesterday morning, I went and watched it, and I was surprised. I was surprised at how fun, entertaining, and creative this film was. So yeah, guys, for everyone complaining that Solo was going to be a pile of crap or the worst Star Wars movie ever, you were wrong. I was wrong. It's not bad at all. In fact, the film is very well made. You can't really tell the difference between what was shot by the original directors and Ron Howard, but yeah, you for the most part it is definitely Ron Howard's movie, and nothing feels weird or out of balance. Like, it's not like you're watching two different directors at work. You can tell that this was definitely like all shot by the same guy, because they reshot a lot of the movie, didn't they? So yeah, it's consistent in that regard. But yeah, Solo. Is it still a pointless movie to have made? Yes and no. But at the same time, here's the thing. If you're going to make something, make it good. And they made something good. Even if it is pointless and it isn't needed, they managed to make something that you can watch and have fun with. So, well done to them for that. In fact, I'd go as far to say that I enjoyed this more than The Last Jedi. And that's not to hate on The Last Jedi, because despite me liking that movie, there were a lot of flaws with that film that I had. But it had so many problems. But Solo, for the most part, I just sort of put my head down. I went in expecting it to suck. And from the moment it started and ended, I was just like, yeah, this was good. I kept my head down and just thought, I'm going to go into this and have fun with it for the most part. And I did have fun with it. It's definitely one of the better movies made, or one of the better prequel Star Wars films made. But yeah, let's actually get into this movie and really discuss it, review it. Story-wise. So yeah, story-wise, it's about a young Han Solo, played by Alden I can't say his bloody name, okay? The dude's got a weird long name, but yeah, it's played out by this new guy, and it's a Han Solo movie. It's what you would expect from a Han Solo origin film. It is his origins. Imagine The Last Crusade's first 10 minutes, right, with a young Indiana Jones, and stretch that into a 2-hour film with Han Solo. And this is basically what this is. You basically get a film that introduces you to a young Han who is trying to get off Corellia or the planet or whatever it's called, Corellia or whatever. The film that gives you a reason why he's called Han Solo. A film that that explains how he gets that blaster, that famous blaster of his. A film that develops or shows the origins of that chemistry and relationship between him, Lando, and Chewie, and him flying the Millennium Falcon for the first time. The dice, which do play the lucky dice that do play a little big role in this movie. So yeah, and the Kessel Run, of course, as well. So all the things you would expect that were mentioned in the original trilogy regarding Han, they all sort of threw that into this movie, and they give you a reason for how all that stuff happened, why it is. This movie pretty much explains who Han Solo is and how he became that Han Solo. By the time this movie ends, though, he's only sort of taken a first few steps to becoming that character, because for the most part, he's still not that character yet. This is like the beginnings of the journey of, a young Han Solo becoming that Han Solo that we know and love. And yeah, is it pointless? Perhaps. Definitely. But it didn't take away from how fun they managed to make it. So again, applause for them on that. But yeah, characters. So yeah, character-wise, Alden, am I even saying the name right? Alden, he's definitely his own unique take on the character, okay? He doesn't try to copy Harrison Ford, which, thank God, is a good thing, because, we kind of went into this expecting him to try and impersonate Harrison Ford, but that doesn't happen. Alden is his own thing. He brings his own unique flavor to the character because again, this is a young Han Solo. This is a character that's starting out for the first time. You know, he isn't that grumpy spectacle smuggler that we know and love yet. This is a character who is learning the basis of what it means to be a smuggler, the basis of what betrayal means, and what who to trust, and when it is good to do the right thing. So this is the character that we're sort of getting, and we get to see all those different aspects that will go into developing this character that becomes the kind of character that would shoot first and ask questions later. So we do kind of see that, and it's good to see the movie pay homage to the things that, you know, people loved about the original Han Solo. So we kind of see the first steps of that character being built. So that's kind of a good way. And Alden, he does a good job with the performances, but he's definitely not the one that steals the show. Even though it's his movie, he's not the one that steals the show because other characters, the supporting cast, do a much better job. But it's mostly because of his chemistry with them that this movie basically shines. And the chemistry with Chewie, for example, is pretty much the heart of this film. Like, his relationship with Chewie and how that develops from the beginning to the end of the movie is what drives this film. You know, you get these moments with Chewie where we see Han from his perspective. We see this guy who you think at first he's going to be a scoundrel, he's going to be a scumbag, a nobody, but he really isn't that. He is a decent guy, and while he's trying to survive on himself, he does take these moments where he does try and help other people. He does try to do the right decisions if it sort of benefits him, and that. And we kind of see that perspective from Chewie's POV, and it gives you a reason why Chewie just basically sort of stands with this guy by the end, and how they become such good friends, and that level of loyalty and respect that he shows him. So we kind of see it from that kind of point of view, and it's great how they managed to do that. And then, of course, you have Woody Harrelson's character, Tobias Beckett, who's basically sort of Han's mentor in this movie. He sort of teaches him the ways of smuggling and, you know, not to trust anyone, and that, you know, people will stab you in the back, etc., etc. So he's kind of that, so you kind of get that teacher-student mentality with this movie, and the chemistry between them two is really well done as well. Again, like, when a movie does a teacher-student relationship very well, it shines. And this relationship definitely shines. And Woody Harrelson is definitely one of the best parts of this film. He's a badass. He's got his moments where he feels like a very tragic character. And he's got the moments where he makes good points about what he's saying. So you kind of do agree with him. So there are moments where you sort of just sit there and you're like, yeah, I agree with this, what this guy's saying. Like, he's making a good point. And there's definitely some villainous side to these various characters, because again, they are not good people. These guys are gangsters and thieves, and this movie this whole film's theme is pretty much like gangsters and thieves, basically. If Rogue One was basically like an infiltration war spy film, then, you know, Solo is basically a heist gangster movie, and that's kind of the atmosphere of this movie. You then have other characters as well, like Emilia Clarke, who plays Corinne or Coran, I forget her name. She's basically Han's love interest, and I'm sorry to say, like, her character isn't bad, but I just didn't really believe the chemistry with these two, so it definitely wasn't the best part of this movie. But she's not a waste. She has a moment or two where she shines, definitely, but as a whole, it wasn't the best part of the movie when she comes in. But because this film is sort of like an ensemble cast, you've got Han playing off with various different characters, so that definitely helps this movie keep its momentum and pacing. But when it's like just these two, I don't know, there's just something missing and not feeling very right. But that's definitely one of the weakest parts of the film. You then, of course, have Danny Glover as Lando, a young Lando. And yeah, he's not in the movie that much, along with this android character called L3. They're not in the movie that much. You think they're going to be in it a lot, but they're really not, which is a bit of a shame. But you do get the first moments, that first build-up of the relationship between Han and Lando, so you kind of see where that rivalry comes from. And just the first sequence that you see these two in when they're playing the Soulback card game and how that develops. Like, it feels like something out of a James Bond or Casino Royale movie, really. So there's definitely that feel of a Bond sort of atmosphere going into this movie with that Pacific sequence. And it's such a great sequence as well, because you got all these various different alien characters in the background just watching and cheering on and that. So it's definitely a great scene. And that relationship that builds up and follows as the movie progresses to, obviously, that level of betrayal that you get between these two is fun to watch. But yeah, Danny definitely steals the show with the scenes that he has in. He definitely embraces that side of Lando. He definitely comes across as being a younger version of Billy Dee Williams. And L3 is a fun android character. I think one of the things that these new Star Wars films have been doing is trying to give us very memorable robot characters, and L3 is definitely one of them. But the problem is she's hardly in the movie, so she doesn't leave a big impression. She certainly has her moments, but when compared to, say, like BB-8 or K3 or K9, was it? It doesn't really compare, unfortunately. Like, again, a lot of these side characters are sort of wasted, along with, like, what's her name? Voss, who's like Beckett's second in command. She's hardly in the movie as well. Like, a lot of these characters that are introduced just come and then disappear, basically. So it does feel like a waste. But in the end of the day, this movie's focus is on Han and his relationship with Woody Harrelson's character and a young Lando and his love interest. So really, those are the kind of the four main characters that this movie is trying to sort of develop. And you can kind of see where they could get away with doing a Lando spin-off when the time comes for it. But because he definitely can hold his own. But yeah, in terms of that, it's done very well enough. Then we have the villain of the movie, played by Paul Benty, or God, I don't even know if I'm saying that name right. Vision from the Marvel Avengers movies. He's only got like 2 scenes in the film. I think he was a replacement for the original villain that was going to be in this movie. It was supposed to be sort of like a mix between a CGI or prosthetic character, but instead we get this dude with like these scars on his face that light up and grow a bit bigger every time he gets like very angry and that. But he definitely has some fun scenes. But again, like I said, this movie's theme, this whole movie's sort of atmosphere is basically like a gangster flick. So if you've seen your typical gangster movie where you've got the main dude sort of threatening the hero, and then he sort of appears at the very end to sort of like conclude the business deal that they had, that's sort of what the role Paul plays. So basically he's hardly in the film, but he definitely is sort of the reason for why a lot of this stuff happens in this movie. So yeah, he's definitely an important part of the movie, and he does get sort of a cool fight scene by the end of the film. But yeah, overall, I thought all the performances in this movie were done well. You do get some cameos from other characters from previous films that you might notice or recognize. There's also another character called Nest that's in this movie. It's sort of like this badass, masked gangster cloud rider character that left quite an impression when they first appeared. But overall, again, a lot of these, like I said, a lot of the support characters in this movie aren't in it that much. This movie is really primarily focused on Han, his girlfriend, and Tobias, really, and Lando sort of in the middle. And again, this movie is a heist film, so there's a lot of heists going on in this film, which leads me to the action scenes. The visual effects of this movie are really well done. There wasn't a point in this movie where I was like, oh, that looks fake. Everything looks real enough, so the effects are done really well, and the action sequences for the most part are cool and entertaining to see, especially the because this movie does sort of basically open with a car chase, basically, sort of. So that's kind of cool, kind of start the movie with. It is very tenseful and it is very fun and atmospheric to see, like just to get a good idea of how good Han is at piloting, basically. But it's not until the next kind of sequence that we get to that we kind of see where this movie shines. And the train heist, for example, is definitely one of the best highlights of this movie, just because you've got this unique setting and this unique way of trying to hijack this cargo from this train as it's bending around and going through the mountains, and you've got the various characters playing their parts, trying to steal the thing that they want to steal, and you've got other characters coming in and stormtroopers coming in trying to stop them. So there's various things going on at once. There's a lot going on, and yet it's a very simple procedure, a simple objective that just kind of goes wrong and screws everyone up in the end. And then of course you've got the Kessel Run as well, which is the highlight of this film, and they go in to try and again sort of fix the mess so they don't get killed by the gangsters, basically. And you've got a lot going on there as they're trying to infiltrate this base to get what they need, and then they have to escape and go through the castle thing that they do. And obviously, it's just that moment, of course, sort of felt like it was kind of taken away from Star Trek 2009. There is definitely a moment in this movie where it feels like it's copying that film, but as a whole, that whole castle run was just cool to see, because again, there's a lot going on. You got the characters all doing their part on the ship. You know, Han piloting the Millennium Falcon for the first time, Chewie coming in and becoming his co-pilot, and the other characters doing their part to try and escape the situation. So yeah, definitely a highlight, definitely a cool moment of this movie. And then, of course, the third act of the film is your basic sort of Western-style confrontation. So yeah, this movie, like I said, this movie's atmosphere, this movie's theme is definitely inspired by a gangster's Western flick. It feels like a space Western, basically, if I have to give it a real comparison. So that's kind of what it feels like. And it's done well. It generally is done well. The characters that you're introduced to are fun. The actors give a good performance. The action is unique and creative and cool to see. The soundtrack, the John Williams themes that they borrow from the previous movies to give you that Millennium Falcon feeling and chase sequence that you got in the other movies, that sort of comes back here, and it's just such a nostalgic feeling to hear again. I think the last time we heard it was in The Last Jedi as well, so they do reuse tracks from segments from those soundtracks and they put them in here, but it's cool to hear nonetheless, and it's cool to see it in those moments, in those action sequences. And then, of course, there are the few surprises of this movie. Like I said, there are cameos and appearances from other characters, especially an appearance from a character I don't think anyone saw coming at all in this movie, which sort of ties it basically to the Clone Wars and to Star Wars Rebels. So now it becomes a case of how they're going to tie this to Rebels now, because this movie does basically introduce like I said, it introduces a character that we didn't think we were going to see, and it basically does set itself up for a sequel. Because by the end of this movie, Han is taking his first steps to becoming the Han we know. He still isn't the Han that we 100% know from the original trilogy. So yeah, this movie definitely sets itself up for that, which is kind of annoying because we all went into this expecting to get this standalone story about Han Solo, but that's not it. This movie is basically sequel bait, which is annoying, but the way it sets up the sequel is cool enough. Do I want to see a sequel to this now? Yeah, I guess I would like to see how Han meets Jabba, for example, for the first time, how he meets Boba Fett for the first time. I would definitely like to see that spectanism of his character, where he doesn't really believe in the rebellion or the Empire, and that we kind of get an idea of that with the Empire, but I would like to see maybe the rebellion side of it as well. So yeah, this movie does sort of set itself up for some interesting encounters and future storylines. But it's going to be interesting to see how they go about doing that. Because while a lot of it is sort of said and done by the end of this film, there's a lot of, again, set up that they can potentially go into the next one. But a lot of people are going to find that annoying. I found it annoying as well, but I'm not angry about it because this movie, like I said, this movie is fun and entertaining and creative. So in the end of the day, it won me over. So I am definitely looking forward to seeing a sequel to this. Most likely we'll get a trilogy, but if they could just maybe do one film and sort of wrap it up, that would be nice, really. And it does set itself up by, in terms of setting up other characters' storylines as well. So yeah, apparently because we are maybe getting a Lando film, and we might be getting a movie with this other character as well, which again is not necessary, but I could see them doing that, and I feel like that's the whole point of why they did it as well, like setting these characters up here. But overall, Solo was a surprising, entertaining watch. Would I say watch it? If you're a Star Wars fan, definitely give it a watch. And just go into this with low expectations and have fun with it, because yeah, for the most part, it's an entertaining movie. The action is good, the characters are fun, the acting is good, visual effects are great, and Ron Howard brought his A game to this, which is surprising considering the hit and misses he's had recently. But he definitely proved that he was the right man for the right job when it came to this. So yeah, definitely enjoy it. We'll definitely be getting on Blu-ray. Obviously, Star Wars collector, definitely going to buy it regardless. But I'm going to be buying it and be excited for it because it was definitely one of the better Star Wars movies I've seen in recent years. So, yeah. Overall, my final scoring for this would be an 8 out of 10. The pacing for the most part is good. I think my only complaint really is the lack of screen time for most of the side characters. If they'd just been a bit more, it would have been a bit cooler. But I feel like it does justice to what it needs to do when it comes to those specific main characters. So it's done well enough. The third act, like I said, is sort of inspired by Western style confrontations, but it could have been a bit better because the twist they sort of pull with the betrayals is very predictable, and it's kind of annoying that they kind of went and did that. It could have been done better, but you know, what are you gonna do, right? Nothing is perfect. But yeah, definitely an entertaining, fun ride I had with this. So yeah, that's my review on Solo, guys. As always, like and subscribe, comment down below if you will, tell me what you thought. And yeah, I shall see you when I shall see you. Take care and bye, and may the force be with you.